Welcome back, this is UIX Part 3, and we're going to go over making text scrollable. This is useful when you have large text documents and you want to scroll through them, or when you have UI and you've got lots of details and you want to allow the user to scroll through them. You can think of this as the same as scrolling through a website in your browser outside of VR, so that's exactly what we're going to recreate. This will teach us how to do UIX masking, as that's the terminology used for making stuff invisible, if you like, masking it out. And we'll also be covering how to make stuff scroll, and that uses a component called ScrollRect. So let's first of all take a look at an example of this in Neos that you may have seen before, but may not realize that it's UIX. So I'm going to hop over into Smooth POV, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my private UI, so we have to see my camera UI for a second. I'm going to go over to the file browser here. Inside the file browser, I'm in the depths of my computer, and I'm going to go ahead and find any text file. If you don't have one, go ahead, generate one, just type a bunch of gobbledygook into a text file, save it as .text, and then double click it. In the video description, you'll find some links to some videos where I go over sort of text handling or .txt handling within Neos. It's great and handy that I can just write text documents and spawn them in like this. And this is what happens when you do it. You get this sort of transparent white rectangle with black text on it. This is a UIX canvas. And you'll see here that this document is just the MFC results, but I can scroll through it by holding down my primary button on my controller and just dragging it down with my hand. So here I am holding primary and bringing my laser up, and you'll see it scrolls. So yeah, that's exactly what we're going to create, but we're going to create it manually, and we're going to talk about how it works. Once I've created it manually, we'll come back to this and I'll prove to you that it's doing the exact same thing. Let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to turn around to the left here, and we're going to start by spawning out the UIX Canvas template. I talked about this in the previous video, but we're going to be using it in subsequent videos just almost off the bat, because it sets up a nice canvas for us to start working with without worrying about setting up manually. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to go ahead and open up my dash again. I'm going to go to my inventory tab, and I'll show you where that template is. It's inside my public folder under tutorials and UIX. Once there, it's this black rectangle on the right here. Just double primary on it, and you'll get my UIX Canvas template. With this added, I can turn off private UI, and we can get started on recreating this. You'll only need a developer tooltip for this one, so go ahead and grab yourself a developer tooltip, inspect the canvas. I'm going to have a brief refresher on what was added to the canvas last time. So here I have it opened in an inspector. You'll see that we've got an 800 by 800 canvas. It's grabbable, and we've got an image which is black. That's perfectly fine. We're going to add a couple more slots to it. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and hit the star icon at the top, which will add a child object. This child object we're going to go ahead and rename to mask. So here I am typing in mask. This is going to be our mask. Now I talked about the mask component, and I showed you the visual result of what it did, but I also want to actually sort of technically explain it. Masking, or I believe masking, comes from back in the old days of filming, where they would put sort of masks over the lens or masks over the film in editing to sort of hide out or mask out parts of the shot. And so that's what's happening here. We now use it in sort of lots of computing-based terminology. And what it does is it means that anything that's masked out by the mask will be hidden, and anything that is in the area of the mask will be shown. That won't make much more sense without me showing you, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So bear in mind, just add the components here, follow along at home, and you'll get there soon. So let's go ahead and attach component, UIX, graphics, mask. That'll add the mask component. To show you how it works though, I'm also going to add an image component to this mask slot. So I'm going to go to attach component, UIX graphics image. And we'll leave that as white because it will show a visual difference between the canvas template behind it, which is a black rectangle. So now you see that the mask isn't really indicating that it's doing anything, and that's because the mask graphic, show mask graphic option is unchecked right now. If I turn this on, you'll see that the white image now appears. But again here, there's not really much going on, so let's go ahead and add some more stuff and you'll see what's going on. What we're going to do here is underneath the mask, we're going to go ahead and add another child object. And this one won't be set up for scrolling. It's going to be set up just to show you what the problem is when you don't add scrolling. So I'm going to call this one text. We're going to hit enter. We're going to go to attach component, UIX graphics text. That gives us a text object. I'm going to steal the text from here. To do that, just spawn in that text file like I talked about earlier, inspect it, find content, and then you can just drag across the content from the content of the text here. So here I am putting my laser at content, I'm gripping, I get a big wall of text here that I can just play around with, and I can chuck it into the content property of the text. Let's go ahead and set that text color to white so we can see it. There we go. And so you'll see what's happened here is that we don't have the entire text document. Let me show you what would happen if we didn't have the mask here. So I can go back here and I can, that doesn't work. That does though. Now we don't have a mask here. Let me just change this to black for the moment. And so what you're seeing here is that we've got the entire text document sort of just running off into infinity. It almost looks like Star Wars credits coming off here. You know, so lots of overflow. If I re-add that mask component back to this mask slot, you'll see that that disappears. So graphics, mask. With the mask added, we can now see that, hey, only the text that can fit within here is visible. But one of the things that we cannot see is the ability to scroll it. So let's go ahead and set that one up. I sometimes get this one confused, even though I've just looked at it like 4 times to the right of me. I'm going to go ahead and stumble our way through it and see if we can make that fine. So what we need to do here is go ahead and underneath the mask, we'll add another child object, and we're going to call this one ScrollRect. Again, I'm just naming these to make it clear to me when I look at the UI later what's going on. On the ScrollRect slot here, I'm going to go to Attach Component UIX Interaction ScrollRect. This will add the rect transform for me, but we're also going to need to go ahead and add UIX Layout Content Size Fitter. On vertical fit, this property here, set this to min size. And then if we move the text down into the ScrollRect, we should be good to go. And we're not, because I've forgotten something. I know what I forgot. I also need to go ahead and add UIX Layout Vertical Layout. There we go. Now we can scroll through it. There might have been a lot to go through, so I'm going to go through it again, just a little bit slower, and talk about what each one does. We will be covering some of these other components later, particularly vertical layout, as that's sort of an axis aligner, if you like, and you know how much I like axis aligners. So I'll recap. We added another slot called ScrollRect, and then we added the component ScrollRect to it, and we added content size fitter to it and vertical layout to it. And then we parented that text object that we created just earlier in the video to that ScrollRect, and then we configured the components on the ScrollRect slot. So I'll go through what each one does. ScrollRect is the component which handles scrolling. There are various options for it. By default, it will just handle a sort of vertical scroll, but you can also do horizontal scrolling as well. You'll see here that there is a normalized position property. This tells you how far you are through the scroll here. So you can see here, I'm at 0.2. If I keep scrolling, I'll just go through it all. I believe if I go to 1, it'll be the end of the scroll, but I'm not entirely sure. But you can use that. I'll just keep scrolling rapidly just to satisfy my curiosity at this point. Yep, there we go. So you'll see here I'm now at the bottom. I can go ahead and I can set this to 0 manually, and we should jump back up to the top. There we go. Now you can also scroll horizontally if you set that up. We won't do horizontal scaling today, but you can try these components. You should be able to take a look at it. Big hint here, and I think this says horizontal will need tweaking. So that is the ScrollRect component. You can also see that there's a horizontal line and vertical line. This is similar to the horizontal and vertical line on text, as in it will handle how stuff is aligned. As it's aligned to top right now, that means that the top of the text is at the top of the text. If I did it the way around, we'd see probably some weirder stuff here. Maybe it's not going to affect us for... Might need a more complex scroll to there. I thought that did that. Oh well. Take a look at it yourself. We'll leave that as top. Don't worry about viewport override or legacy content. I haven't used those, so I'm not quite sure what they do. If you know, do let me know in the comments section. The other component we configured was content size fitter. Now, content size fitter will fit the content to the size of the rectangle, in this case the size of the scroll area. You see here that we set the vertical fit to be minimum size. That is just a setting that will ensure that scrolling works. There's all sorts of stuff like disabled, which that's weird stuff. Preferred size, which also does weird stuff. The size options here, other than min size, will be a lot more apparent when we start talking about layouts. We're not doing that today, but we will do it when we cover layouts a little bit later. The last component that we added is vertical layout. Vertical layout just controls the layouting of the particular ScrollRect component and stuff beneath it. Don't worry too much about it. Like I said, we'll be going over layouts in a different video. So that is scrolling text for you. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll over to the original text file here, and we're going to go ahead and inspect that. and I'll show you exactly the same. It's a little bit different because it's made by someone else, but we'll take a look. So we're going to go ahead and inspect that. You'll see at the top here we have vote results, which has that canvas. Right at the beginning of the video, I showed you the canvas. There's a couple of extra components that are to do with it being a text file. Don't worry about those. You'll see underneath that is a ScrollRect. The ScrollRect has the mask on it. It doesn't actually have the ScrollRect component on it. A little bit confusing there, but that's why I made that one first. And then underneath that, there's a content that has the text. That's where we grab that big piece of text to use. It has the content size fitter and a vertical layout on it, as well as that ScrollRect component. So there you go. That is scrolling text. I'll see you next time. We're going to go on to probably icons next, because I want to cover some visual pictures, etc. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.